It was just after 2 o'clock in the morning when the alarm came through. A shrill, mechanical voice cutting the air. Fire at Warehouse 12, South Dock, go.
We were on the truck in 3 minutes, blue light slicing the fog. By the time we rolled up, flames were already eating the corrugated sides, tongues of orange snapping into the night.
The roof had collapsed in parts. Heat like a living thing knocked us back. We couldn't get close without breathing the smoke.
We watched men in turnout gear charge the blaze, hoses like silver snakes trying to beat it down. You always get that sense. This isn't random.
The foreman on scene said the fire started in more than one place.
Multiple points of origin mean planning. That's where the first question sits. Who wanted this place burned, and why?
Warehouse 12 was a storage hub for small electronics, tools, and commercial goods. Insurance lists showed significant value.
We went in once the HVAC and power were secured, boots crunching over hot shards. The smell of fuel was immediate, sharp, chemical.
There were fragments of glass and charred fabric in 3 distinct pockets. It didn't read like an accidental spark.
At the perimeter, we found a body, partially consumed. Identification took a while with tissue melted away, but the wallet held a card. John Carter, night watchman.
John had been working nights for years, quiet, dependable. Who benefits from his being where he was that night?
The lab later sent results, traces of an accelerant mixed with a solvent used in industrial repair shops. This wasn't garden variety gasoline. Someone with access to specialty chemicals or someone who knew where to buy them.
We started compiling names, employees, contractors, local shops that carried those solvents. One list kept coming up, a salvage and parts supplier on Harbor Road.
Harold Grant runs that place. He sells old motors, solvents, anything a shop might need. We knocked on his door before noon. I deal with a lot of folks, kept in the ledger who bought what. When I told him the lab's findings, he flinched. Harold came in last week, bought a vat-sized container and paid cash. Didn't look like he wanted anyone to see.
Arthur Miller, named from the insurance ledger, owner of a shell company listed as the client for some of the warehouse's high-value shipments.
Paper companies are as good as smoke. They hide money in the people who move it.
Miller's partner in record, and Edward Blake, turned out to be a shell too. Paper names, P.O. boxes. We dug into Miller's phone and found a pattern of calls to Harbor Road in the 2 weeks leading up to the fire.
We tracked the truck used to pull a load from the dock 3 nights earlier, a beat-up Ford with a dented bumper. The GPS pinged near an abandoned lot outside town.
The lot held a tarp and pallets. Under the tarp, we found crates with serial numbers that matched items reported stolen from multiple shipments.
That's when theft moved from theory to motive. If Miller was orchestrating thefts and needed to clear out by fire and insurance, it made a certain kind of grim sense. But then the body. John Carter didn't figure into any of Miller's lists. He was a watchman, a man who, when he stumbled into something, paid for it with his life, or at least with his presence that made someone light a match. Our interviews with the night crew told a different story. John was last seen arguing with a man wearing a wool cap about an hour before the fire. He shoved the man away, then went back to his rounds. The man left in a truck.
We had CCTV showing a truck leaving the dock at 2 in the morning. The plates were blurred by smoke and heat, but a witness 2 blocks over saw a truck pull into an alley and return with a tarp-covered load.
Harold's ledger and the truck's route intersected, but we needed more.
We picked up a lead from Miller's ex, Maya. She'd left him after he started slipping, taking pills and talking about clearing the ledger so they could leave the country.
Maya had enemies, not the kind you can ignore. Clients, men who thought he skimmed too much. When I found out what he'd insured the warehouse for, I nearly called someone.
Maya gave us a name she'd overheard, Frank Dugan, a blue-collar drifter who used to work security, rumored to be easy to hire for dirty work. Frank's trail led to a halfway house 2 towns over. The man living there now was a different man, calloused hands, hollow eyes. He denied involvement until we produced the CCTV frame. I was paid to be there. I told them I'd watch, not get involved. I left, and when I smelled smoke, I came back to find the place on fire. I swear I never touched a match.
His story cracked when we presented phone records, a short coded exchange between him and a number registered to Miller.
The content implied payment for a shift and confirmation of a clear run. That was all we needed to know that Frank had been bought.
But he insisted he didn't mean for anyone to die.
Dead men don't always mean murderers, though. Maybe his presence was the opening. Someone else might have lit the accelerant.
The lab told us more. Fiber analysis on the tarp showed traces of an industrial binding agent only sold to licensed contractors.
The contractor on paper was Coastal Logistics, a name linked to Miller through a shell company.
That's where everything starts to look less like theft and more like an organized operation.
Miller wasn't just moving goods, he'd turned warehouse voids into a laundering loop disguised by fire.
We found transfers to offshore accounts. Miller had been padding claims and routing payments through shell companies.
The picture darkened when the insurance investigator told us Miller had recently upped the warehouse coverage and done so under a fake identity.
Which means the fire paid out, or was intended to, and someone expected the paperwork to be the story.
Except for John Carter, who watched one too many nights.
We located Miller's rental unit on the east side. The light was off when we pulled up.
We knocked, no answer. A neighbor told us Miller took off in a white van 3 nights ago, tracked to a marina on the river where a small craft was seen making a late departure.
Miller was a slippery fish. We cultivated pressure, pulled accounts, subpoenaed records. Someone on the inside had been making deposits, cash withdrawals in small installments to avoid detection.
There's always a man who runs the numbers.
It turned out Coastal Logistics was a front. Real contractors were implicated as unwitting cogs, their licenses sold or forged.
That forged trail led to a name, Gavin Price, an operations manager who'd been dismissed 2 years prior for discrepancies in manifests.
Price had motive, access, and the skill to make a theft look like a tragedy.
We got a break when a dockhand remembered a heated exchange the week before between Price and Miller about who controlled the vault. The dockhand heard Price say, "You'll get what you deserve," and saw Miller leave shaking.
When we found Price's ledger in a storage unit, it matched the pattern. Fake manifests, bribes, payment tokens.
One thing stuck in my head, a voicemail Miller left on a burner a week before the fire. "If I can't sell it, I'll burn it and collect."
That's near confession. We moved in.
The raid wasn't clean. Price's men were ready. We took heavy fire.
In the scramble, Price escaped. A small-time thug stayed behind and tried to lead us astray. He bit more than he could chew.
We cuffed him and he started talking, breathless and angry. He named the courier, a man called Tito, who dropped the accelerants and handled logistics.
Tito's phone had a dry run message, pictures of pallets wrapped at Warehouse 12, and a note, "Tonight."
Tito flipped when we closed the net. He didn't talk about the ledger. He talked about orders and fear. He said Price paid in cash and told them the watchman would be grabbing his usual cigarette and leave the back gate open at 1:30.
Frank Dugan was supposed to be the distraction, but Tito said no one was supposed to get hurt. They were supposed to be in and out with the merchandise, then let the fire finish the staging.
Someone had made a mistake. Someone changed the plan.
That someone was Price. He had more to gain if the operation looked catastrophic. Higher payouts, more space to launder the rest.
We found Price hiding in a boathouse with burn marks on his gloves and a night's worth of soap to remove the scent from his clothing.
Confronted with documents, loops of cash transfers, and Tito's sentence, Price cracked. He admitted to orchestrating the theft, hiring men to handle the dirty work, and planning the fire to destroy evidence and trigger the insurance.
He swore he didn't mean for a man to die, that the watchman's death was an unfortunate accident. But he'd signed the checks, bought the chemicals, and ordered the night cleared.
You can't sign someone's fate and claim innocence when you pull the trigger from a boardroom.
Miller surfaced in a motel 40 miles away, thinning like a ghost. He called his ex, begging for help. Maya tipped us off.
We arrested him. He had nowhere left to go. He folded under questioning.
In the end, the ledger painted their sins in numbers. Forged manifests, offshore accounts, a network of men paid in cash. The fire was the climax of a scheme that had been warming up for months.
Court found Price and Miller guilty of conspiracy, fraud, and arson. The men who worked the docks were convicted as accessories where evidence supported it, and Tito and Frank received reduced sentences in exchange for testimony.
We closed the file in the way cold cases don't always get closed, with signatures on paper and a sentence on the rack.
But signatures don't bring back John Carter. They don't put back the heat that took his breath.
We wrote in the final report, intention turned the warehouse into a weapon. A profit-minded arson is murder by another name.
The fire dragnet worked the way we feared. Reach, containment, and then the slow unraveling.
You chase ghosts, and sometimes you catch a few. For all the paperwork and court dates, the real cost was human.
In the end, it was about accountability. Men who use flame to hide their greed will always leave a trace.
That night at Warehouse 12 left its marks. The embers cooled, but the fallout spread. Families who lost a night watchman, workers who lost a job, and a city that watched criminals try to burn their way to profit.
We did what we could. We traced the money, we named the men, and we gave something to the people who deserved justice.
You close a file, but you don't close the memory. Fires fade, but they don't forget who lit them.
That's the way it was with the big fire drag.